Or there we go. I gave you permission to record as well. So the glowing part, I think, comes from a lot of realizations that I have had this week, right? Because last weekend was Mod 3, which had thrown me for a spin. Different ways, right? In good ways. I find that being thrown for a spin is a good thing because then it gets me to stop, pause, and reevaluate a lot of things. So that's where I was this entire week. So my coaching session was a lot of waterworks. Okay, Mila, Ethan, I'm gonna call now. They're so loud. I just love the kids being home. I love it. They're gonna be home until September. That's if the schools are open in September.
Right, and that's a big if.
Yeah. So I wanted to throw a topic idea out your direction and see what you think. Because I was thinking like, well, what are we going to talk about? Because it feels like, to me, it felt like there's nothing to talk about. But there's always something to talk about. What do I talk about? Because I feel like I know a lot. To me, it also feels like, well, everybody else must be feeling that same way, that they know a lot, that they kind of feel and think the same way as I do, but they don't, right? So the topic is, how do you, as a human being, ground yourself? And that came up with a conversation that I had with our neighbor. We just crossed paths, like we were walking on our walk. He's going and he's walking, we're coming back. And we were talking about, like I mentioned that I'm a life coach, right? And I said that there's going to be a lot of people that will be coming to me and anyone else that is a life coach after, even during this whole epidemic thing that's going on, and they would be coming with feelings of feeling unbalanced, right? And when you feel unbalanced, what do you do? What I always say, go ground yourself. And it comes down to, pardon my language, but take your goddamn shoes off. Remove that rubber, that soil between you and the earth, because you were not born wearing those shoes, and connect. And if you want to go a step further, go hug a goddamn tree. They love hugs. So he told me that when him and his wife, they went Siberia, and in the morning, his wife was kind of like saying that she's not feeling very balanced, she's not feeling very well. So he's like, okay, try this. Take your shoes off and go walk around while the grass still has a morning dew, right? And then tell me how you feel. So, and I'm just like, when he's telling me, I'm like, oh my God.
That's like exactly how I'm feeling listening to it. Morning dew in the grass.
And that was his example of helping his wife to ground herself, right? And he's like, he doesn't really understand why, but I'm like, that's because it's energy, right? And the soil, the sole of the shoe, the rubber, disconnects us, right? So, yeah, what do you think on that topic?
Yeah, so this is a huge topic, and I think it's certainly relevant because I think ground yourself is a hot button, and it's being used. There's widespread use of this phrase, ground yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think the first thing we might want to talk about is what it feels like to each of us and what grounding oneself means to each of us. Mm-hmm. Because it could be different for different people and it could feel differently for different people. And it's certainly important because we are here on this planet. And when we're caught up in our heads, it's almost like we've lost touch and we've become disconnected with this planet. So yeah, let's start with, what does it feel like for you when you are grounded?
So for me, in order for me to know what it feels like to feel grounded, I must first experience how it is to be ungrounded, right? Feeling that, right? Because you don't know one, you need to know the other. So that way you can kind of like understand and compare. It's like, okay, well, this is how this feels, this is how it feels. So my experience of that is growing up feeling grounded, where to me what that meant was I was always outside running around. I was always exploring. I was always on the bike. I didn't like to wear shoes very often, so I ran around with no shoes. I was never even scared of stepping on something that would hurt me because it happened. I remember there was like, we were in a forest with my parents and their friends, and there was these trees growing that had like spikes growing on them. And one of these spikes, like they're pretty big, right? And one of the spikes was on what?
Like the cluster of spikes, it might be the honey locust with the cluster of spikes.
I don't think it was cluster. It was the whole tree that kind of had spikes. This is in Russia, right? So I don't know what kind of tree it was. I just remember it had like really big spikes. So it's like a thick bottom and this sharp needle. So long story short, I was wearing shoes, but there were flip-flops in the forest, and I stepped on one of those and it was like about this big and then went into my foot this much. So there was like this part sticking out, and like talking about, I can feel where it went in. And do you think it stopped me from wearing shoes and being scared of, connecting and being one with the forest, because I was just running around everywhere? And the feelings that I had, it's just knowing. That's how I would explain it. It's just knowing and feeling whole.
Yeah.
Because disconnected felt the opposite. It felt like fear and anxiety and I don't know, and kind of like, I don't want to say unloved, but that's the word that comes to mind.
Yep.
Right?
That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Of course.
How was it for you?
Feeling grounded for me feels safe, feels secure. I feel like, and this is why it makes sense to me that you feel loved. Like when I am grounded, I feel like an innocent child of the earth, and I can look around at all of creation around me and feel intimately connected. And I feel secure. I feel stable. I feel rooted. I feel like, and this is after, I've been working with this for a while now, for like 3 years with grounding. And it started, so my journey began with grounding, very similar, as you were saying, like I had the feeling of not being grounded, of being lost, and letting all the inner critics and which developed from external critics becoming my inner critics, of being like, you're too idealistic, you're a dreamer, you're this, you're that. And also just not knowing how to utilize and master my empath gifts. So absorbing everything would just send my spirit off into the realms, and there'd be total disconnect. So being ungrounded feels to me like a complete disconnect between my spirit and my body, and who knows what my mind is doing.
Yeah.
And that's when I know, like when I'm in those, when I feel that separation, is a separation of self. And so when I first started recognizing that, I would spend about 2 hours a day, because it was soon after I left my job and I was just lost. And I'd spend about 2 hours a day in this arboretum close to where I live, just talking to the trees. And I remember laying there being like, well, nothing really matters because the trees are going to be fine. Just like not caring about anything because the trees were going to survive and they're going to outlive us all. And So that practice of just connecting with nature has has evolved into the way I ground now. So now um it feels like I have roots that go deep below the earth's surface, and with every step I take, like I still love walking around barefoot, and spending time gardening, like when I am gardening. So gardening is one of my tethers to ground.
Mhm.
And doing, I'm noticing what thoughts are filling my mind, and they're very simple. They're like, the soil's so warm. And then I'll think about the sun. I'm like, thank you, sun, for heating up Mother Earth. And then I'll think about the seeds below, like in the soil. I'm like, oh, they're so warm and cozy in Mama Earth's womb. And and it sounds like maybe an outside observer who hasn't embarked on a self-development journey, maybe that would seem weird that I'm connecting with Mother Earth that way. Okay. That's my mom. This is Yana.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Good, and you?
I'm okay. Hanging
Yeah.
out. You want to meet us there?
Okay. You're bringing Grandma?
No, she can't. She's so uncomfortable. I'm going early. I'll be home by 3. So we have
Hey, Mom. How do you ground yourself?
ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How do I ground myself?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it.
This is
I
great.
feel I am grounded.
That's good.
I'm grounded through how I was brought up. What I is that what it's about? Grounded.
Do you want to know?
I don't express myself very well.
Oh, that's okay.
Grounding, a little grounding would help.
Well, what does grounding mean to you?
Yeah, what does grounding mean to you? That's a great question.
That grounded to me means that I'm comfortable with where I am and what I do, and I have good values and morals, and I do the right thing, and I'm kind of comfortable with myself. Is that it?
Well, we were saying it could mean different things to different people.
Yeah. Right.
So how would you describe, what would the definition of being grounded?
Well, again, there's no definition.
Well,
You make your own, right? You make your own definition. For me, I can use one word, and to me, that one word is equilibrium, which means that total, complete balance of everything, and especially up in here. Because if this starts spinning around, to me, that means like I need to go and ground myself. I need to get this out. And the way that I do it is put my feet on the ground and let the ground take all that away and like almost like soak it and absorb it. And that's where when we're out in the wild, we feel like a child, carefree, run around like a free spirit. That's what grounded means to me.
Yeah. And I would agree with that, and add, to me it means intimate connection to all of nature and all of creation. Like when I am working in the garden, when you came in, I was talking about working in the garden, and
spin your computer.
It won't show up, and my window that I look out is the garden, and getting that intimate with the soil and the connection to Mother Earth. And like when I'm in those moments, there are no thoughts going through my brain, no future-based thoughts, no past-based thoughts, just this is what I'm doing, touching this soil. It feels great. Look at everything Mother Earth does. And so that's one example of grounding. Another way I ground, like let's say it's the winter and I can't have that intimate of a connection with Mother Earth, I'll sit on my yoga mat and just simply say affirmations, like root chakra affirmations help me to ground, like I am safe and secure. I am creating a safe and secure foundation on which creativity can flourish. So anything around safety and security, because that we are all innocent children of the earth. So we all deserve to feel that safety and security below us, below our feet, below our butts when we're sitting on our yoga mat. And to me, that's what grounding feels like. It's like knowing I am here. I am here. It's like the root chakra, as simple as it gets, the I am.
Yeah.
I am. I exist. And that to me is a huge part of grounding, just like that awareness and gratitude, and just takes you out of your head. Really, grounding just takes you out of the like busyness and brain chatter.
Well, I'm always in a state of that because of responsibility. So
You're talking to two coaches, so
yeah, I understand that, but I have this that I have to do.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get that done. And I have a responsibility to, if it's the 90-year-old mother, and me, that's my responsibility, and I got to do it. At the end of the day, boom, me, I'm done. Whatever it is to be mindless is what I do. But I feel I'm grounded in my life and what I have to get done, how I do it. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Do you want to meet us? What'd you think of that?
I think that's pretty good. I like to hear that people are grounded and they know that they are and they feel comfortable with themselves, even though we all have responsibilities as adults, which kind of sometimes can make us feel a little unbalanced. But having your own tools that help you to feel balanced in those times, in those moments, that's the key right there.
tools.
And it could be as simple as, for me, it might be to, and you always say it's a, a broken record, but dealing with.
I said one time when I was setting boundaries, when I was setting boundaries, because as an empath, Yana's also an empath, when someone is a chronic complainer, or anytime they talk, it's the same laundry list of complaints.
I got to interrupt because I do have to go, but I want to say something about that. So if somebody needs to complain, part of being listening and empathetic to it is to say, I know, I get it, I hear you. And then you move on. Like I could call Ian Beth getting in the car after grandma and going, okay, I'm going to bitch. And then we go through it. And then I say, okay, got to go. I'm going to do my garden or whatever. And you get to move on from it,
But are you actually moving on if the next time you bitch, it's the same thing?
Yeah, moving on.
Year after year after year after year.
Because it is what it is. And it is what it is. It is what it is.
If I set a boundary, because I am constantly evolving. So if I set a boundary, if I already know what the chronic complaining cycle is, because year after year after year it's the same things, and I set a boundary, which I did years ago, because for me, I'm ready to grow, and I can see, as an empath, we can see. It's hard for us because we see the solutions and the changes that can be made in someone's life so that the chronic complaining cycles can stop and grow. We don't like stagnant energy.
Daddy's yelling at me.
Or in a way we can feel this solution before we actually see it. For me, I feel the solution before I can see it and envision it.
Mm-hmm. So there's a difference.
Oh, I feel it.
There's a difference between holding space for someone to vent and release,
I feel it,
and being the dumping ground for everybody's complaints and problems.
I would question, because your mom said it is what it is a couple of times, and to me that sounded very strong. So I would question how true is that?
How true is it is what it is?
Yes.
I work in a medical field. I listen to people all day long complain. And what you do is sit, listen, maybe give them an alternative, but maybe just go, I know.
So you're getting paid
know
for it.
how,
You get
but
paid for it.
I get paid for it, but I also chose to be in that field because it's what you want to do. But I have to go.
And in my field, I get paid, and my clients grow. So my clients, I hear them, and then I hold up a mirror and say, so this is what you're telling me. And I say, how is it working for you? And then they have an honest evaluation of themselves.
But I feel like I have an honest evaluation of myself. I think
Well,
is there a book, I Like Me, or what's the name of that book?
That's great if it works for you. But if I say one time, look, it's a broken record, I need to set a boundary and I can't listen to it anymore, I'm entitled to that.
And I've never said.
But you bring it up a lot that I said a broken record one time.
She's asking a question. She asked a question. I brought it up because it fit into the conversation. Boom, gone. I'm done with it. You know, I don't hang on to it.
I pray that you hire a coach one day, Mom. That you hire a coach.
You.
Try and meet us. Daddy's car will be here.
No, I'm not.
All right. You want to go see Grandma?
Maybe.
Okay. She'll be alone.
It depends. I mean, I have a call later, but.
Okay. But it was good to meet you. Some other morning when I'm not running
maybe
out,
Yana can coach you.
In.
Maybe Yana can coach you on mornings, just so the record of things that play in your brain can start one by one exiting.
Sorry, bye. I gotta go.
Bye.
No,
have
that's okay.
Fun. Tell them I say hi.
It just sounds like limiting beliefs.
Thank you. Where are you?
I'm in Canada.
Oh, that's what I thought. How's everything up there?
It's nice and hot outside. I went for a walk. I sweat. It was really nice.
Are you on the West Coast or East?
Ontario.
Yeah, we decided we might move there to Canada and then an island in the winter. Bye-bye.
Bye. We'll see. I have a call later, so I'll do my best.
That's awesome. That was awesome. I love that. I can tell you're like, okay, this is different.
Okay, right. During that, looking at your face, you were my tether to planet Earth, because having you there, like there are some patterns there that you just witnessed that normally I would want to interrupt and speak over, and looking at your face, I was like, oh yeah.
And I'm like, I love it. I'm hearing like so many opportunities there to, that's why when I heard it is the way it is, I'm like, that is like limiting.
It's all limiting beliefs up there. Everything that's going on, it's all limiting.
You just want to like help your mom to lift that box a little bit and just peek out and look what's there. It just, if you've seen those videos, and that's what it got me thinking, like there's this video of this piggy bank where you put a little coin in the end and the little cat or an animal comes out, grabs it and pulls it back inside. That's what it like, kind of like got me thinking, like having your mom come out, grab it a little bit, just peek outside. Okay, go back inside where she's safe.
It's, you know what, it's like I'm hoping, I am praying that this was a seed, and maybe I can get her to talk to you without me sometime, because like when it comes to me, she's not going to listen. So if I paint a picture that there is a life that exists where you do fulfill all your responsibilities, but in the now as they're occurring, you don't try to control them before they occur. You don't try to control the future. You don't try to plan how like every little thing's gonna go. Because when she was talking about her responsibilities and she was saying like, you know, like she thinks about them, it's not planning, it's anxiety. Like I am a professional. I know what anxious like head thoughts are taking up the headspace. And so when do you remember when she hurt herself last summer, when she fell and broke her ankle?
And she wanted you to help because it was really hard for her to ask for help and receive help.
So that is an example of not like the reason that she fell down the stairs. She missed a step going down the stairs, and I was like, what was going on? Like, whatever it is, like, we need to figure this out so it doesn't happen again. And she was describing, she just got out of bed and her brain was already like thinking like, what am I going to cook for my mother? And like her brain is always circulating about her taking care of her mom. And I was like, okay, so your brain was in all these different places while you were going down the stairs. Your brain was not in your body going, I'm going to take one step, then I'm going to take the next step. No, it was gone. And to me, that's an indication, like when someone's not grounded, when you're not experiencing being grounded, your brain, your spirit, and your body are all disconnected. And just like that awareness that comes when you're grounded, like you are aware of what your body is doing. Like even when you're doing dishes, you can be grounded and just like, oh, there was water coming out of the faucet, and like this is a miracle that I'm even here on earth doing this right now, like engaging in the human experience. And so that was interesting having her come on for that, because like I just want to like,
that was perfect.
Like you were like the least grounded person I did.
Perfect example, right? And that's what it is, because when our mind is constantly going and going and going, and not necessarily planning, but making that to-do list, right? Whether we were physically writing it down, I can tell you about the to-do list because I have them everywhere and I write constantly, but it's not to actually go and do them in the way it is. But at the same time, it's mainly to just get it out of my head. Because if I don't get it out of my head and if I don't write it down, it's going to continue spinning. So that's another form of grounding for me. Getting that out of my head, putting on a piece of paper, this is where I put it down. Like, this is how many like to-dos that I have in here, pages and pages and pages. And if I one day want to go back and look through them, I look through them and I was like, oh my God, I had that to do. What a waste of time. But I have so much space in my head that it was draining me. So that's where brain dumping, that's what I call it.
Thank you for bringing that up. It's like, I think that's so key. It's witness, like being witnessed by the paper.
Mm-hmm.
By having your words and your brain on paper, it's so helpful. It like the power that it has over the brain dissolves as soon as it's out on paper. Then it becomes choice. It's like when it's in the brain and it has hold of you, then it's like victim mode takes over, because then it's creates anxiety and it just proliferates all the things that go on.
It's like a full luggage. That's what I'll explain it. Like you're carrying that full luggage and you know what's in there, but you don't clearly remember what you've put in that luggage. And then you put it out on that table and you start taking piece by piece, thought by thought. You're literally listing all those things that you have in this luggage. Oh, okay, this is what I have. Now, what am I going to do with all of this that I have? Because I honestly can't do it all in one day as much as I would love to. So what's the most important thing that I want to put on and wear today? As in like deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it easier and it makes it lighter for us to get it out and then go on about our day.
That's such a great practice too. Like when you said what's the most important thing, it also brought to mind, we can also, once we tap into that feeling of self-worth and start trusting in the others around us, when we see that to-do list and what's most important, we might also see opportunities to delegate and ask for help. And we can look for areas like, okay, what is specific to me? What has to be done by me? What can be done by someone else in the family or someone else in the team or in the organization? And just the opportunities to delegate and allocate responsibilities arise. So it's just so great, such a great practice to see it that clearly on paper, prioritize, decide what has to be done by you only, no one else can pick up the responsibility, and then to be honest, like, well, what can actually be done by others? Like, for example, take my mom again, with her having full, like, is a control freak. Like, she wants full control of everyone's journeys. And because of that, it's very difficult for her to delegate by empowering others.
Mm-hmm.
Consciously, if others are empowered to do all the things and intuit what needs to be done, then what value does she have if she can't do everything for everyone?
It sounds a lot like a habit as well.
Oh, isn't it all?
Yeah, yeah, right. And then we all know that it can be really difficult to break a habit, especially a habit like people pleasing, because it sounds like your mom might be a very big people pleaser, and a lot of nurses are. A lot of people that work in healthcare are, and a lot of them are also empaths, and they're sensitive, even though they put up a really tough shield around them, and they find it difficult to just be, right? I found this rock on a walk.
Oh, you found that?
Yeah, in our town, people paint rocks and they leave them on the path, and I've been looking at this one for so long, and I'm like, I have to take it. It's meant.
It's meant for you. That one is meant for you. Like, of course, you needed to take. That rock was there for you to take.
Yeah, and I picked it up today, and I thought it was perfect, because what does this mean? This means just be grounded.
Don't worry about doing. Like, doing lives in the head. Being lives in the heart and the soul. We are our souls. Doing, our souls don't need to be doing. Like that laundry list, the broken record that my mom brings up all the time. I didn't think, it's so funny that it comes up. Like, it was like I was first, like the first time I said it, I'm pretty sure I only said it once. And the first time I said it was when I was first learning. It was back in 2013, and I started working with my coach, and we were learning. She was helping me learn what was mine and what belonged to others. And I just kept realizing more and more, all of the level 1, all of the blocks and the energy, like most of it, pretty much all of it was coming from outside of me, and I was just absorbing it. So I was learning how to set boundaries, and I didn't know, like, I was learning the impact of words and sentences and negativity on my nervous system. And I was learning about how I react to when people express their laundry list of complaints and their chronic complaining, because this is probably true of many empaths and those of us who have always been the one that people dump on, like dump all their emotional labor and thoughts on. And from the time I was a child, I would sit down somewhere and a stranger would come up to me and start unloading, and I'd just look at them and be like, uh-huh. So I've always been that human for others, and empaths are porous. It's a quantum physical phenomenon that we empaths, because we are from a higher dimensional universe, we're born on that dimension. So what I mean by that, for anyone listening, Yana and I will talk about dimensions, and but what I mean by higher dimensional place is not a physical place, it's a frequency. And where the 3D reality is, like, that is our world, our physical world that we see. But keep in mind that all matter is energy. So what we see is just slowed down matter, slowed down energy. So we are just energy. And when we expand our consciousness, our thoughts, so an example of expansion would be a thought that's saying, why bother? Nobody cares what I do. that is a low frequency thought, because what kind of feelings come up? Doubt, helplessness, hopelessness, feeling alone. So that's going to be a level 1 frequency. We're going to be condensed, tight. And when we are in that space, when we're condensed so tight like that, not many people are going to come around talking to us, which makes it even harder, because then we're trapped in that victim state, and it feels like we're drowning and we can't get out, and no one, it feels, our brain is telling us that no one cares, because we're already in that.
And that feels ungrounded.
Yeah. Yep. It's seriously ungrounded, because we're not connecting to anything. We're just caught in this vicious vortex. So that's the lowest frequency that we experience emotionally and behaviorally and attitudinally as humans, is that victim, level 1. And then an example of a higher frequency and more expanded. So when we expand, let's say we're in the frequency, let's say the thought is, I am connected to all that is around me. I am one with all of creation. I am one with all my fellow brothers and sisters. We are all one. That thought brings me so much joy that I just like expand, and I've got all this love to give, and I just want to run around hugging and telling everybody I love them so much, and thank you for incarnating at this crazy time and space with me, and we're all here together. And that'll get, like, I'm like getting high just talking about it. So then I'm expanded in that place. It's very different from, you can feel it, and others around you can feel it. And when I am in that expanded state of joy, and people want to be around me, and but let's bring it back. So that's level 6. We'll bring it back to level 4, where most empaths, or a lot of empaths, have a lot of level 4 energy. And when we are at level 4, we're expanded to the place, our thoughts at level 4 are concern for others. I want to care for you. I want to care about you. I want to nourish you. I want to help you. So since we empaths have spent more than our fair share of time at that frequency, so many people who are at the lower frequencies, who are contracted, they need to expand. So if we think of it through the lens of physics, we can think of empaths as like more spread out molecules, just molecules spread out. And then other people might be molecules so contracted and tight together. So then when they come into our force fields, their molecules are like, oh, thank God, and expand into us. And we're like, oh, great, like, I'm here for you, and I'm glad you feel better. But then we've got then we walk away having had absorbed all that. And
it almost sounds like we're being used to help the other person ground themselves.
Yeah. Yep. It does. Like the end result is that they feel more grounded, more connected. They get to unload, unburden, and they're on their way. We on the other hand, we've absorbed it now. And it doesn't stop. What I've noticed about empaths is our concern doesn't stop at the conversation. And that's where it starts taking up energy, because then we start, our brains just automatically start problem solving for the other person, which is also a form of not being grounded. When our brains start working overtime, like taking on other people's stories.
Yeah, focusing on other people and how can we help them? How can we fix them? And again, as a coach, it's not our job. And that has helped me tremendously in grounding myself and allowing my clients to have their issues as their issues, and not owning them and not taking them on myself. And the reason for that is because if I take it onto myself, they're not owning it and they're not dealing with it.
Right.
So how are they going to be able to overcome it and grow past it and face their fears? And that's a conversation I had with my kids today in the morning. So we're walking by this house, and my daughter, she says, that's a really nice backyard. Can I tell him it's a nice backyard? I'm like, of course you can. And it's like a distance away. there's no way he could hear. Even she's loud, she can scream, but he won't hear because he has water there and he has sounds there. But I'm like, go ahead and try to tell him. He might not hear you, but go and tell him. She goes, I'm scared. I'm like, that right there is a sign for you to go and do it. How are you going to feel when you're done doing it? When you step over that line of fear? She's like, I'm going to feel good and proud. Okay, do it. So she did. She screamed, and I know it wasn't as loud as she could be, but baby steps, right? So she screamed. I'm like, so how do you feel now? She's like, I feel good, right? And that's how it starts. It's little things like that.
Yes.
And we were also walking, and again, this is with kids, right? They have the interesting conversations. So we were talking about, who would you rather be? Would you rather be a great white shark or a hippopotamus? I'm like, well, I'd rather be a shark. Well, my son's like, well, I don't know if it's a good idea, but right? I'm like, well, they live longer. They are in the water. They're always swimming because they can't stop swimming, right? I'm like, I'd love to have that kind of an experience of being in the water. And then my daughter, she goes, would you rather be blind and deaf or never loved by anyone?
Wow.
Oh,
So I'm just like, well, when it comes to that conversation, first of all, the only love you ever need is that for yourself. If you have that, you simply cannot go on with your life not feeling loved, because that's all you need is a love for yourself, saying, I am lovable. So, and the other part, I'm like, well, I have no response to that because I wanted to focus on that part, because it's just simply not possible. Because if you're here, your parents love you one way or another, right?
I was just you just pulled that out of my head. I was just thinking it's just not possible. It's just not possible.
It's not. And right away, I'm like, it's simply not possible. And I know sometimes in our life, we can go through these times where we feel like no one loves us, that we're alone, no one understands us. Been there, done that. And it's a really dark place. And it comes down to, do I love myself?
Yes.
Right? And I do. I might not be in love with myself for a variety of reasons. I mean, I can list them. And then again, those reasons at the end of the day, to me, they feel like they're stupid. Like, I'm not sexy enough, so I don't love myself. My boobs have discovered gravity right after having kids, so I'm not lovable because of that. My hair is a little frizzy, so I'm not lovable because of that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what the brain can do to us or for us, however we want to phrase that. I like to say for us, because then if we're thinking that way, then we can start to question it and say, well, how true is that really?
Right.
Right? Everything is figure outable. That's a book that I want to read, actually, by the way. That's what the book is called. Everything is figure outable. And at the end of the day, really, everything is figure outable. So I don't really need to read the book to understand what the book is about. But everything is figure outable.
Yeah. You brought something up that I also want to connect back to grounding, just the topic of self-love. And we've got to, so there's, and really any self-development or self-care practice or wellness practice, and to me, wellness includes wellness of the mind and spirit as well as the body. And any practice to take steps to develop and to cultivate discipline toward that requires a sense of self-worth, and that comes from self-love.
Yeah.
And something for me, as you're talking, I was relating back to when I not that long ago, a year, 2 years ago, would see myself in the mirror and be like I could hear myself say, I hate you. And I was like, whew, wow. How am I going to work through this? If I couldn't even see my own reflection without saying I hate you to myself. And so if anybody is there or experiencing that level of resistance to self-love, my first step when self-love, I finally started opening my heart to self-love, I was working with my inner child. Because maybe I couldn't love myself in the now, but I could look at a photo of my 4-year-old self and be like, I love her. Like, I love that kid. And that's how I began. I would sit in meditation and conjure up images of myself at different ages. And like when I didn't receive the emotional support that I needed, or would experience emotional neglect, and I conjure up that child and like, well, I love you, and I'm gonna be here for you, and I'll follow your lead. And that eventually, just like working with her and becoming her guardian, I then became the guardian, like the parent for my inner child. And through that process, I was able to develop self-love again. And it like reconciling with that, and just like having that in the back of my mind at all times. Like, if I hate myself in the now, then how am I being a good leader for that child? And how am I like creating a vessel, like this vessel that holds me, that child too?
She's still there, right? That child is still there. So, exactly. I mean, I can tell that it's a very sensitive topic, right?
Yeah, that is unexpected.
But it's a sensitive topic, and it's difficult. I mean, I've done that once, where I connected with my inner child. It was like through this guided meditation with Marissa Pierce. So any of you guys that are wanting to try a guided meditation with Marissa Pierce, check out on YouTube. And it's literally, she takes you from now, having a conversation with your younger self. Like you said, for you, it was the 4-year-old, right? When was the last time you felt that way? Go and sit down and having that, like I even got like chills, having that conversation with yourself, but as a child. And how would you talk to that child? How would you treat your child? You wouldn't tell her she's ugly. You wouldn't tell her she has frizzy hair. You wouldn't tell her she has saggy boobs.
Right? That boobs even matter, or that boobs are like, if we went back and reparented our little girl children, they would not even know what being objectified is, because it wouldn't even exist. And that's the world like we're creating when we reparent ourselves.
And
like,
that takes us out of the grounding. I don't want to say stage, but that's the word, like grounding stage. All of a sudden we go into the adult stage, where we are waking up in the morning, which was brought up by your mom, by you and your mom. Wake up in the morning, and who are you thinking of? Are you thinking of everyone else, or are you thinking of yourself? Because I used to wake up and think about everyone else. And I can tell you what that did to me, and that spiraled me out of control, where I felt completely unbalanced, ungrounded, and looked in the mirror and I was disgusted. I didn't use the word hate because I didn't say anything. I didn't even want to look in the mirror. To me, mirrors didn't exist. I just walked by them because I didn't want to look at them. I didn't want to look at myself in the mirror. And it hurt me, because I used to always love dancing in front of a mirror, or being stupid in front of a mirror, and still being okay with myself. So it took, I don't want to say it took a lot, because it didn't take a lot. Little by little, I just started looking in the mirror, and it's like, hey, how you doing? And then that would make me cry so hard. I would cry, and I would go down to level 1, because I mean, that gesture, that's like level 6, level 5. looking at myself like, looking good. I was like, I don't know, right? But little by little, doing things like that, it helped me to look in the mirror and not be disgusted with myself. Because to me, that was the goal, to look in the mirror and not be disgusted with myself because I'm not a disgusting human being. That's what I was, because it keeps,
like you're the opposite of a disgusting human being. It's just thinking about it, the things that we think of ourselves and tell ourselves that are so not true, and just like I know you and I'm looking at you, and to me, from my perception, like clear, like you know how much I love you and perceive you through these like rose-colored lenses, and which is it's real, like of course I do, you know, like I know your soul, so I see your growth and how you're blossoming and what you're growing into and the woman you're becoming, and it's just like knowing your soul. It's so weird to learn. It's so weird to see into people's souls and know people on soul levels and then hear what their heads are telling them.
yeah,
Because, and that it just goes to show there's nothing, it really doesn't matter. I mean, it does, it goes a little bit of a way, but we can tell our friends and we can tell people we love what we see in them over and over and over. But if they don't internally start seeing it, then it can't take root.
yeah, yeah. And that is exactly why we don't take on our customers' problem onto ourselves. Because if we do, we're robbing them of that opportunity for growth from that comes from within. We're not here to fix anyone because we don't believe you're broken. I don't believe you're broken. I believe that you are perfect the way that you are. That's it. If you want to enhance some parts of yourself, then you do that.
Right. And that's, there are so many clues for that. Like making lists of people you admire. If you admire people, there's a reason, because that's who you are growing into. And it's fine if you're not there yet. None of it, like, that's the whole point. That is the whole point of having people we admire, so we continue to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Like we are not meant to be there. Like we're not meant to be at the people we admire and then stagnate. We're meant to constantly be admiring and then figuring out what is it about that person I admire, and then recognizing, having the awareness that whatever it is we admire in others exists within us, or else we would not have the capacity to perceive that. So
Yeah,
that,
we wouldn't even notice it. We wouldn't even see it. It would be just like wind.
and that is important for people to understand that. So if you think about someone, if someone's perception of the world, for example, is competition and discord and conflict, they're gonna see that in others. I lived with someone who was always focusing on blaming others, and I didn't understand it, and there was a lot of like paranoia and in this person's reality, and I realized, just paying attention to this person's story repeating over and over, it's like, wow, this is why we are not communicating, because I'm seeing this different world. I'm seeing hope and harmonics and love, and that every fear can be met with love. We can go through that alchemical process through the heart. Fear, heart, comes out of love, as love. And so I noticed, I was like, we are living in completely two different worlds. So his reality, he is seeing, of course, everything that's going in through his filter is resulting in more fear and more paranoia, more manipulation, more blame, more competition. And it became very difficult to really figure out what the soul of this person's soul saw. And which is why I had to go my separate ways, because to keep your frequency and your perception of the world intact around that is difficult, because it is two different dimensions. And so, but it just goes to show, like, that's an example I think about when I think about how our reality, how what we think and perceive becomes our realities, and also what we think and perceive is us. Like, our realities are mirrors and reflections.
Yeah.
So it goes the same, like, just as what we admire in others exists within us, what we judge in others is something that exists within us as well. So typically when we judge, we are disowning a part of ourselves.
Yeah.
And we are meant to reconcile with it.
And we're also pushing it away. So if, let's say, one is jealous and envious of something that another person has, first of all, it is a clear sign that you're more than capable of having that in your life. But because you brought in jealousy and envy in there, it gets pushed away. Right? It's the same concept of when we think about money and the lack of money. Money is energy, right? So if we have that sense of lack, when we are jealous and envious, it's a sense of lack that pushes it away. So, and that is one thing that a lot of people practice without realizing they're practicing, being jealous and envious, comparing, right? And by doing that, what you're doing, what we're all doing, I'm still guilty of that once in a while, right? That's where I find myself on level 1, and sometimes I choose to stay there, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be here, so let's go somewhere else. Where do I want to go? But what that does, because I'm aware of it, and I've learned that that's how energy works. Oh my God, this cat is like taking a little piece by piece off the table and trying to push it off, and I'm like catching. It's like a toddler.
That's like, no wonder, like, the phrase, I was like, oh, you have cat like reflexes. Like, no wonder that's the phrase.
This is my spirit animal.
I love Ramses.
Yeah, but what was I saying? The energy that when you want something in your life, instead of being jealous and envious of those people, reach out to them and have a conversation and connect with them, because chances are what you'll get to see is that it was not an easy road for them to even have that in their life, whatever it is. Or maybe it was. So connect with them, have the conversation, and praise them for it. Eventually it will become natural, and it won't be something that you feel like you have barf coming up. And it's like, it's so difficult for you to praise someone for their success, for their achievement, for whatever it is that you are jealous or envious of.
And that jealousy is coming, usually is coming from a place of lack, of I'm not good enough, because what we think we're seeing when we're jealous of someone, we think something that we're not capable of accomplishing.
Yeah.
And that's lies, that's false.
Yeah.
Because we think because somewhere within we're saying, I can never do that, and then it turns into, which is more level 1, like, oh, why bother? That's level 1, and then jealousy is level 2. And there's a reason that we experience level 2. It's I mean, generally and physiologically and historically, it's to combat what we perceive to be a threat. So the threat in this case is a threat to the soul. Like, your soul, if you're jealous of someone, your soul is calling out to you, there's something here that needs to be healed. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm good enough for some reason, and I need to look in and figure what that is. Because
it's like a message.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because if I'm jealous of someone, it means I admire something about them. And it would be more fueling and helpful if I focus on what is it that I admire in this person? What is it that I admire that they're doing? And then remember that I can perceive that. I have the capacity to perceive what I admire in that person, which means I can also take steps to cultivate or produce or create whatever it is that is causing this jealousy.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to worth. We have to feel worthy of taking those steps.
Yeah, I would, the question comes to mind of that I that is jealous and envious of others. How balanced is that I, that person?
Will you
elaborate? How balanced and grounded. How grounded is that person that is jealous and envious?
I. So you're saying just be clear, when you're referring to the I.
Because you were saying like I, as like a person, as an individual, saying I am kind of like jealous and envious of this and this and that. Now that I, that person, that individual, how grounded are they?
Okay. When you brought up I got super meta, and I was like, oh, do you mean like the I, like, you
like
know,
the seeing eye?
No, like, well, the other is like the I that the like the thinking mind, you know, and then there's also the like I am,
yeah.
I am that I am that I am, and so like the I am is grounded, and that's what's there. The thinking mind, that's you and me, us and them, that is not grounded. That's based in illusion, it's based in lies. That's another way to tell if we're going thought by thought, if it's grounded or not. If it's not grounded, it's causing separation, division, it's lies. It's causing jealousy. Those are lies. If you're experiencing those, then you're not grounded, because that's an illusion. A quick code, like code cracking. Any separation is an illusion. So if any thoughts of separation, which jealousy, separation, conflict, you versus me, us versus them, I'm right, you're wrong, that's all separation. Because I think anyone who watches mine and Yana's talks can get on board with this concept. We are all one.
Yeah.
So that's the truth. Unity is truth, and that's grounded. Which is wild, because in this shift from one paradigm to the next in the current human evolution, those of us who speak this way seem to the old paradigm status quo perpetuators, we seem to be out of touch with reality. Like,
yeah, we're the crazy ones.
When I spoke this way to my therapist, she thought I was gone. She was like,
How do you think your husband feels?
Like, she thought I was gone. But unity is truth, and that's grounding. Like, unity is grounded. That connection to all of creation. Like, look around. Look at, like, smell. Oh, senses. Like, using the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of touch, the sense of hearing birds. Like, I will listen to the birds all day. That's to me, that feels like grounded. Like, I am a creature of the earth.
Yeah, me too.
All around me. And it's like, I love Mother Earth.
Yeah, honestly, like my husband and I,
talking about
like my husband and I, we've been like dreaming of, and in a way planning to get a cottage in the middle of like nowhere, so we can just be wild. My wild is no shoes. His wild is the shoes. For now, give him time. I'm slowly helping him to change the lenses, right? Because right now there's one kind of reality, so to speak. And when I talk a certain way or say certain words or bring up certain topics, it's like, ooh, we don't talk like that, right? Because it's not normal, right? So talking about dimensions, there's just this dimension, that's it. No, You watch shows like we're watching Rick and Morty, for example. Yesterday, third episode of the new season, right? As we were following.
I just watched that one. You and I we're
so connected. That's like different dimensions right there. So how can you not even try to comprehend? Yes, sweetie.
No one's access to my Roblox account. Hi.
Hi, Ethan.
Hi.
Oh, it's okay. We'll change it. He's wearing shorts today. He's okay.
Black shorts.
Wow. Ethan, you're a wild man. Whatever. Ethan is ready. He is ready to live in the wilds.
Oh, he's already been living in the wild. We go for walks. He takes his shoes off and he walks with no shoes. Yeah.
Right.
That's the way to go.
That's what we've been talking about, Ethan. We've been talking about playing in the woods barefoot.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's I had this feather lay at my door, and I know that there's always messages, and I haven't been able to come around. Wait, sweetie, wait. Like go find time to sit down and try to decipher what the meaning of it is. Right? It's like gray, dark gray, and white feather. I will give it. Wait, Ethan, let me finish. Okay. Like a gray and white tip feather. It's kind of like hard to see the tip. And it was laying right at my doorstep in a toaster oven. Go get it. Right. Careful.
Mila, food is in the toaster oven.
Yeah, so anyone that's watching and knows how to decipher messages when it comes to feathers, I'd love to hear, because honestly, I have way too many things to to do that I want to do, and I keep adding more and more and more. So I'd love to hear anyone's interpretation.
I mean, if there's someone like watching your videos, I love getting my information from people within the tribe, like people who actually like connect than just Googling.
Yeah, exactly, and especially. And like with a tribe, to me, what that means, it's like a person knows me or understands me in a way that they can connect this feather to me and almost like personalize the message to you.
Right.
I can go and do that myself on the internet, but because there's so much information, I just like I don't want to go through all that work.
And it's cool, like subconsciously, once we get to know each other intimately through these various platforms, and subconsciously, like we're all becoming a part of each other. So anybody watching our videos and who's gotten to know us on these soul levels, because we are real and raw on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like we are all connected through that subconscious realm. Like going back to Rick and Morty, there are all these other dimensions out there, and we're all connected. Like sometimes, like if you've ever had a dream about something and then like a couple days later it's like on the news what you dreamt about, and because everything's connected, like you access that in another dimension.
Yeah.
Wait, what were you never mind. Were you done talking about Rick and Morty?
Well, what I was gonna say is like that. To me, it's like, how can you not question that there is other dimensions? Because it's not just in Rick and Morty; it's in many, many, many other movies and shows. There's always like a reference to different dimensions.
Always
Being able to access them, not necessarily go and live there, because we physically can't. But in a way, you can.
You can't. Like this is what I've been playing with. Like I am straight up living in the dimension that I choose, because of the way it took a while to get here. It took a lot of people acclimating around me. It took years of my family acclimating to the frequency that I was choosing, and I became very clear on what it felt like, and peace, harmony, calm, joy, ecstatic bliss. Like when I'm dancing with my headphones on and I am in a state of ecstatic bliss, I'm sure it looks wild to I'm quarantined with my parents and they are seeing my practice, and like I am a mystic witch, and I am like, I belong to Mother Earth. I am her wild creature child, and I express that through dance and movement. I'm sure it looks nuts, but it's an important part of my practice. And because I realize it's an important part of my practice and it's one of my non-negotiables, I am maintaining all that comes through in that. It's my fortress. That movement, that practice is my fortress. And I've tapped into like what I will call the frequency that is often referred to in social media and like the trends that it's 5D that like everyone's talking about. And it's not a physical place, it's a frequency that we experience, and then it's our choice to embody it. And that's where the work is, and that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
It's the theater technique, and it's just doing it in our waking life, being who we see. So the theater technique is part of the Law of Being program that Yana and I facilitate, and it's meeting your 5D self. You create a version of your 5D self, essentially, and you are your 3D self perceiving that 5D self, and then you integrate. So it's like your light body exists in the higher dimensions. It's a frequency. You can tap into it. If you've ever experienced ecstatic bliss dancing, or if you experience joy, or you've tapped into that frequency, and then the more you work that into your daily routine, the more you experience it throughout your life, the more you embody it. And so that's what the theater technique is about. It's like what fills you up with all of that, that joy, that bliss, like what in nature, what about you, and then tapping into it. So it's not a place that we're going to. And when we talk about New Earth, what we're talking about, it's really from within. So it's planting a seed within of our highest selves, and then cultivating a practice that helps it to grow, and we nourish it, and then eventually the world around us does start adapting. And it's not immediate. It takes a long time, and it takes strong will and resilience, and the ability to keep returning to the same places that wounded you, and being sure-footed in your new avatar. And so when I refer to 5D, I'm talking a New Earth, and I'll use terms interchangeably, like 5D, New Earth, Lemuria, Heaven on Earth, Zion. And but it's not places, it's the frequency of harmony. And this is what happens when we expand to these higher levels of consciousness, that in energy leadership levels 5, 6, and 7, we detect the harmonics of the universe. So we see where all humanity can work together. And so when we talk about evolving from 3D to 5D, it's not as complicated as it sounds. It's not a 180. I think there's a lot of resistance to it because it feels like a 180 from the status quo, but it's not, because the status quo also does include things like, not right now, but music festivals and movies and things that inspire us, literature, art. So there's a lot of it. We do experience harmony along with what occurs in the status quo. We do experience bliss, we do experience joy. It's just at the same time, there is a heartbreaking amount of oppression and grief and tragedy. So what we're saying, and conflict. So what we're saying when we talk about these higher dimensions and how we get there is not like a complete 180. It's as simple as mitigating the stress and conflict and discord by transmuting it into the higher dimensions of peace and calm and joy. And it's a process, but we transmute it. It's achievable and it's manageable. We transmute it by thinking about the things we already experience in life that invoke those higher dimensional frequencies. So like for me, it's gardening, dancing, talking to you, talking with the coven, drinking cacao, smoking herb, is all these medicines. These are our tools, our medicines, and the more we return to them and use them in moments of conflict or grief or pain, and allow for it, allow for all of it, and that those will all still exist in the evolved society. We're just going to masterfully transmute them, and we're also in the society and culture of harmony. We have support systems, and this is why I'm able to tap into that and remain in that frequency so often, is because I have you, because I have the coven, because I have, while there is the whole reality around me, such as my parents who are addicted to the news and addicted to pain and tragedy and addicted to suffering, which we all have been during the status quo. We've all experienced that addiction. That's why we stay in relationships that are bad for us and harmful to our psyches because of that addiction. But I'm able to maintain the frequency of the world I choose to create and be the change I wish to see in the world, because I have you for the past 2 years telling me you're not crazy, I feel the same way, and bringing me back from the edge of wanting to give up altogether. And then our relationship has developed into this incredible devotional support back and forth, and then we have the coven. So that I can see and the coven is talking about actual physical property where we're going to build and regenerate, and so that all exists, and it exists in the heart. And once we feel it, the key is to feel it in the heart. Like, we could see it all day out of our third eyes, and until we start expressing it and attracting each other, like it was attracting each other when I first started talking about like when I brought up shared dreaming with my therapist, and I was like, when she was like, what do you enjoy doing? And the only thing I could think of at that time was how you and I would talk about our dreams for a different world, or like a return home to the world that we knew existed. And I told the therapist about that. That was like what really made her seem to worry about my health. And the thing is, it was that shared dreaming that took root in the heart. That's when I really started feeling it and feeling like this is possible, and we could actually create a new world and live there. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you, right? Because at that point, I thought I was the only one that was dreaming, because everyone around me was just complaining. And because it was such a big part of my life, listening to people complain, I became one of those without even realizing it. And every time I would share any kind of dream, most people don't understand that, because it's that of, yes, sweetie, it's that of a crazy person, because, only crazy people dream. No, you go to sleep every night and you dream.
Everybody.
So what's wrong with doing that in the middle of the day when I feel like I want to dream and just sit here and close my eyes? Like, can you daydream at night? That's an interesting question.
Well, and the thing is, everybody is, if someone, so we'll bring it back to my mom and the things that go through her head. She's full on, when she's having those conversations in her head of like the things she needs to do during the day, she's fully hallucinating. That's a hallucination, because none of it is happening.
Yeah, or needs to happen.
Right, you're not there yet, so how would you even know? No, she's walking down the stairs thinking about all the people she has to take care of, having these conversations in her head. Why is that considered normal when it's full on, none of those things are occurring? All you're doing right now is walking downstairs to go to the kitchen to get a cup of coffee, and that could be the only thing in your head, and it would be a much more peaceful start to the day.
It's such an adult thing to do. Oh my God. Kids don't think. Kids don't plan what they're going to do in the day. They're just, I'm getting up in the morning. Okay, what do I want to do now?
They're being.
What do I want to do now? What do I want to do now? So again, we've had this conversation, this topic brought up so many times. Stop being an adult. It's no fun.
I mean, and trust that when the time comes, you've got everything you need within. How do I know that? Because you always have. Because you made it this far, you're never without the tools to get you through the next moment.
Yeah.
You've made it, and you will again, and you will again, and every next now, you will have the tools to either achieve a pervasive flow state and tap in, or you will have the tools to combat what you perceive to be a threat. Whatever it is, you have the tools. So there's no need to have these imaginary conversations with yourself. Or I catch myself all the time having imaginary conversations with other people.
Me too.
And it's when I'm anxious about something, or like feeling guilty about something, and I like want to explain myself.
Yeah.
I want to explain. And then so I'll be walking around having a conversation with someone, and I'm like, this is imaginary. None of this is even going on, which is
it can be very helpful.
Yes. Yep.
Right? It can be extremely helpful because it's practice.
And it's a sign of clairaudience, which that's common for clairaudient empaths. Walking around having conversations, like I could be having conversations with 10 different people at once, but it is, as Yana, as you're saying, it can be helpful, because when we have had blocked throat chakras for so long, and we're not as reactionary, like empaths in general, we are not as like forceful with our words, or abrasive, or it takes a lot for us to speak up and express, because we're so concerned about how everybody feels. It takes us sometimes a long time to figure out what we want to say, and also because sometimes in situations we're in shock and we freeze, and then like 2 weeks later we'll think about what we wanted to say, which could also start activating those inner dialogues. But it can be so helpful to figure out your voice, and then taking it to the next step is actually writing it down, so it can be released.
Yeah. Or actually having a conversation with that person if there is a need.
Yep.
It's almost like rewriting the story.
Exactly. Yes.
Where you wish something worked out a certain way and it didn't. Well, why not? Why not, let's say, meditate? Just throwing it out there. Sit down and meditate and pretend like you are there. You're having a conversation and say everything you want to say. And then when you come out of it, it's almost like rewriting history. Like you were there and you did it. Visualize that person in front of you and have that nice, loving conversation with that individual, whether it is an individual, whether it is yourself, because sometimes you got to do that, whether it is your younger self, that inner child, like you were saying before, Rachel. Have that conversation. And for a lot of people, having that conversation with that younger self, with that 4-year-old self, with that 2-year-old self, with 5, whatever number that feels right, go to that age and have that conversation with that younger you, because that is where you start to heal from inside.
So going back to Rick and Morty and different dimensions, what we're doing in those moments, when we're calling up either yourself or someone we want to resolve something with and actually have that conversation in meditation, what we're doing is we are actually in some dimension creating a new timeline.
Oh.
It's real. If it happens in the imagination, it is considered real. It's now materializing in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and you have to continue breathing life into it, which means adding positive energy towards it as opposed to negative.
It's a which will you feed situation, and you could feed that timeline. You could feed the timeline that you chose to heal, and which is a complete reprogramming of the brain, because what we generally do, because we all experience trauma. We all carry trauma. And without the help of a professional or coach, or we don't realize that that the trauma gets stuck on a loop, and we keep revisiting it and revisiting it. And what we're doing is we're feeding the timeline where that trauma exists, because in the now, it doesn't exist. It's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So in the trauma loop, though, it feels real. So when we start, which is fine, like that goes on for however long it needs to go on until we decide I'm done with this loop, and there are ways to go about that. Applying physics to all of it really helped, because I could look at something from my left analytical brain. I could look at trauma looping in a circle in my right brain, and I could evaluate it through physics, where I could detach emotionally. Like through the lens of physics, there are no emotions, just energy. So, and it's the emotional right brain that attaches to the trauma. So what we're doing when we recreate a timeline, when we conjure something up and choose choose the timeline from a place of an intention of healing ourselves, moving forward, growing, we can create an entirely new cycle and reprogram our brains to think about that one instead of the trauma loop, and keep feeding it, as you said, like feed that wolf. That is the wolf that is there for you to, there's a wolf that wants you to succeed. It's championing you. It's helping you grow. It is like the leader of your pack. And then there's a wolf that is your gremlin, your inner critic. It's the wolf that makes you weak and takes your energy. And that's when we feed that wolf, then the trauma loop is strong and the anxiety is strong.
Mm-hmm.
And both are real. Like that's why it feels so real, because it is feeling it. So it takes a lot of work to reprogram the brain to engineer a new timeline for ourselves, especially if it's reprogramming something from the past.
Yeah.
And
Because the only time that exists is the now, and if we are bringing the past into the now, it becomes the now, and that's why it feels so real and so physical, right? It actually feels like it's happening now, even though it was in the past. So that to me sounds like proof that time is an illusion, that there is only the now, and we do get a choice of how we want to experience the now, whether we are bringing the past in or looking into the future and having anxiety over the future or what the future might hold for us. But we don't know. We can only assume. We can only imagine what the future holds for us. And usually the imagination can get the worst of us. For most people, we're looking into the future and it's like, oh my God, this big thing, I just can't. Again, that's also very limiting, very restricting, very constricting. And why not? Who decided? Because, I mean, did somebody decide for you? Or did you decide? Because I don't like people deciding things for me. I don't know about you, but I don't. I don't like people telling me what to do, what not to do. Some might. I don't.
I think the one thing that will bring anger out of me will tell me what to do. Because as coaches, like through the process that Yana and I have been through as both clients to coaches and having gone through coach training, we have gotten to know ourselves so well.
Yeah.
We know our souls. We know what our souls are speaking to us. We know our intuition, and we know the value of listening to our intuition. So when people tell me what to do or try to tell me who I am, that is the one thing, like I'm feeling fire even just thinking about it. That is the one thing that will bring the fire out. And No, I do not. We don't like being told what to do.
Because
and we're wild.
right?
Like being in touch with nature, like we are wild. Nobody can tell the wild what to do.
Yeah.
Nobody tells Mother Nature what to do.
Yeah, you can't tell a tree, stop growing. It's
No.
still gonna grow. It's not gonna listen, right? But usually,
Hey, calm down. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes we can because we're witches, but you know, it takes practice.
yeah, it definitely does, right? And usually when people come to us and tell us what we can and cannot do, or what we should be doing, is usually it has a glass ceiling, right? It has a limit to it, and you can't go past it. And the reason for that is because of their fears and their limitations, not ours. And they try to do that and put that on us. It's like, well, let's say a perfect example, becoming a life coach, core energy life coach. For most people, it's like, it's just they can't even grasp it. What do you mean? How can you even do that? Especially at times like now. Times like now is even perfect because a lot of people are seeking out life coaches because their life has been thrown for a spin, or even better, they realize, well, perfect time, I can do something about my situation, whatever the situation may be, right?
Especially for core energy. Like I'm so glad that you chose IPEC and to also receive your ELI MP designation, because this there's just something about applying quantum physics to evolution that clicks for people. And maybe not right away, but after some practice with it, it just like that. I find that now is an auspicious time to be a kind of coach and a kind of student who is studying how to heal through this kind of system, because we are linking science and spirituality, and it can be so scary to embark on a journey, a spiritual journey, and when we apply science to it, it's and also just like going back to Rick and Morty.
Don't laugh, it's not funny, it's serious.
Like very present archetype right now, but I see that as a trend. Like there's been a trend for a while of the
Pickle Rick, who was a pickle in one dimension.
huh?
Pickle Rick, Rick who was a pickle.
Oh my God, Pickle Rick. He was such a badass pickle. That I loved that episode. But there's this trend, like ever since that show. It was a Big Bang Theory. Is that what it's called? There was a sitcom
Yeah, maybe.
with
nerds.
Yeah, nerds.
Cool, yeah.
But there's it's like, okay, think about it from the perspective of the zeitgeist and what the trends are, and science has been increasing. Like more women have been in science and tech than ever, and there's just been this increase in interest in the fields of physics and biology, and it's needed. It's all by divine design, because this is what Mother Earth needs. She needs us thinking in terms of regeneration and sustainable design and sustainable lifestyle, and there's a science to all of it, and people are more and more becoming aware of the geometrical patterns in all of nature and fractal patterns, which also, as we experiment with plant medicines, become so available to the naked eye just in regular waking life. Like you see it everywhere. You see the sacred geometry in sunflowers, and And so then when you start seeing it, you're aware of it, you're aware of the spirit of all of creation and the universe. And I forgot how I got started on that. But it had to do with Rick and Morty. Oh, so there's this trend, this trend towards science. And so it's just such an auspicious time to have this set of tools that, like the ELI, that bridges that gap between science and spirituality. So you can say, look, this is legit, like literally increasing your consciousness, increasing your vibration. We are matter, which is, we're just slow down energy. So, and we're like, our bodies are barely what we even are. They're like 1% of what we are. So yeah, that was all to say, this is an auspicious time to be a core energy coach, because we have the tools to link that bridge between science and spirituality. And there are a lot of people practicing who have adopted a spirituality practice and could really benefit from the validation of, look, it's just level 6 energy, you know? Of course you're like popping out on the other side of the matrix and looking at it and going, what is this? Because you expanded your consciousness to level 6. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there are more science-oriented people who are skeptical of spirituality and skeptical of mystical experiences, and more psychedelics, psilocybin exploration is opening people up to these mystical experiences. And so they're more science-oriented people who are going to be very interested in understanding from a physics, quantum physics standpoint, like level 1, level 2, like contract, level 3, and onward vibrations. And so it unifies feeling with knowledge in such an empowering way that we can use it in our own brains to evaluate, to hold a space for our emotions, evaluate them, and then choose from a more evaluatory, scientific, like we become our own science experiments. So yeah, it's super cool. I recommend everyone take the ELI. We'll talk about it. Yeah. I know everyone's energy levels. Like my mom, like when your evaluation of my mom, I was thinking like, yeah, like all this level 4 and this level 1, and I, as her daughter, as patterns, mathematical patterns, level 4, level 1, passed down generation to generation. I like, if you remember my first chart that I took in 2013, the ELI I took in 2013, it had a lot of level 1, a lot, and a lot of level 4. It was the same pattern as my mom's. Yeah. That's how seriously we got to take this shit, because all of our patterns are probably going to be, like, if we're women, it's probably going to be similar to our moms, men probably similar to their dads, and they're going to be whatever was normal for how we grew up. Yeah. So look at it objectively and evaluate.
And honestly, the ELI, what it does, because we always want to see physical evidence of whatever it is that we want to know, and we want to know about our energy, and that shows physical evidence of our energy at that point in time, but at the same time, it's what we are typically living in. So it's not just right in that moment, like it's not just a snapshot, it's what is our typical way of living and going by about our day, right? On a regular day and under stress. And by actually seeing it as this evidence that we were always searching for, you see it, it's in front of you, it doesn't lie, unless you lied on the test and try to cheat, which you can't really cheat, but you can lie, you pretend, but the only person you're lying to at the end is yourself, nobody else. Yep. Nobody else. But if you want to know honestly and truthfully who you are, or what your energy is like, at a physical, evidential level on a piece of paper if you want to print it, or on a screen, It's there, it's available. Go do it, go take it. You can't really go and do it yourself. You have to go through somebody who is certified to do it, right? Connect with Rachel or myself and have it done. Figure out where you're at, have the debrief with either one of us, right? You're going to be picking the person that you feel most connected to. That's how you pick, right? And none of us are going to feel hurt, because at the end of the day, we want to work with people that feel connected to us, right? That way we'll feel
like, as long as the seeds are planted and people are doing it, I don't care who is the practitioner.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to feel the relief of having that mirror held up.
Yeah.
Like,
and seeing it and then deciding where you want to go from here.
And it could be at first, like, there was this part I loved in this Naka Medicine for the People performance, where Naka was describing the thought behind this song. He was describing the weight we carry, and his intro, he was like, when you get to that point in the confrontation, like confrontation with yourself, he was like, when you get to that point in the confrontation and you're like, oh shit, it was me. And he's like, it's humbling. It sucks at first. Like, you do. So when I first saw my ELI results back in 2013, I was like, oh shit. Like, ooh, and that's
I was like, oh, I knew it. I knew it. I'm so weak. And again, that's such a huge judgment on myself. And that's where you're always like, well, really? Are you weak? Right? In different ways. No. Okay, well, let's move on there.
Really.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, you move on. Like, you have that moment, you have the ego death. Like, the ego loves comfort, so it does not want you to meet your patterns.
Yeah.
The ego is working so hard at keeping them in the subconscious, because once the patterns are brought from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, the ego is like, fuck, she's gonna kill me, she's gonna kill me.
Yeah, fear and anxiety usually shows up.
Yep. And yeah, then we experience ego death, and we're still living, we're still breathing, you live through it, and from there you have choice, you have agency. Like, in this situation, I used to freeze and keep my mouth shut, and I realized that was a level 1 response. So next time this situation occurs, because everything is gonna repeat until we shift the pattern. So if we're in a level 1 pattern in certain situations and we become aware of it, then we have the choice. Do I want this pattern to repeat and this is going to be my life and that's it? Or do I want to choose level 5 and take and influence? And there's a meme that goes around that's like, influence, like, don't adapt to the energy in the room or something, influence it. That's what a leader is. A leader is the person in any situation or organization, or if it's just another person. And a leader is the one who has the greatest impact or the greatest influence on the other energies in the room. We are all leaders. And currently we have the typical leadership has been based in fear. So control, coercion, force, ruthlessness. That's how we've been programmed to believe a leader, that's typical normal leader behavior. But that's all level 2. A true leader uses emotional intelligence, which is level 4. So if a bunch of us with all this level 4 energy are out here acting at level 1 in certain situations, it's really not going to help, when we could lead from the heart and influence and encourage and champion and inspire. And so We have and deep down, if anybody is watching us or has made it this far in any of our videos, deep down, they know, we all know we were made for so much more.
Yeah.
You're not following two empaths if you do not know deep down you are made for so much more than patterns that keep us stifled and keep us from expressing and keep us from leading. If you're watching us, you are a leader.
Yeah.
And you're ready. You're ready. You're so ready to lead from a place of choice and agency and sovereignty.
That's right. Yeah. And there's different types of leaders, right? I would say you're ready to be the anabolic leader.
Right.
The one, because if you're watching this far and you are very, very, very angry at everyone, chances are you wouldn't watch this far. You would have pushed so many buttons and so many triggers. It's like, oh my God, these two crazy women, they just get to me. But again, even that has a purpose. That was the seeds that needed to be planted. So there's that. Just gonna leave it right there. As I'm looking at the time, my kids want to go. They wanted to go in the pool. It's still not warm enough. My husband pushed me into the pool yesterday.
Wim Hof.
Yeah, I didn't know if I wanted to cry or if I wanted to laugh. It was such a confusing feeling because the old me was creeping up there, and the old me would have been like in tears, and that's where like my husband and I have very open communication. I told him like the old me would have been in tears and so upset. He goes, well, why? Because I would have taken it personal. He goes, well, it was personal. I want to push you in the pool. I want to get you wet. I'm like, no, personal that you don't love me, you don't understand me, you know I don't like it, and you push me. He goes, oh my God, right? I'm like, no, I'm not talking about me being there now.
Right. And that's
me. Whereas now, and he's like, I was watching your face, and like, I didn't know if you were gonna cry or laugh. I'm like, I didn't know either. That was confusion that you saw my face, and I started laughing. And still feeling like that crying creeping up, but I'm like, no, like what's the point of crying? Because I've been wanting to practice the Wim Hof, like you said, to polar dive, and that's what it was. And I'm standing there.
Yes.
Right? And I'm like, I have my shoes on. And my shoes were soaking wet. My feet were squishing in there. And I'm like, what would the child do? Like squish the feet in there and have fun with the water inside my shoes slushing in there. I'm like, well, they get rinsed a little bit, let them dry. So, and I'm just standing there by the door. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna start undressing right here. Let everyone see in front of the door, right? The neighbors. And he's like, don't stand in front of the door. I'm like, well, it's your fault. I don't want to walk across the whole entire house and get everything wet. I'm just gonna change right here, right? Sit in my towel on the couch while my clothes dries, and it ended up not drying, so I wore my really long sweater. and then the opportunity that I had to flash him, I'm like, there you go. You gotta have fun, right? So, yeah.
Well, I want to recognize and congratulate you on your timeline shift, because you could have put a timeline in motion where you did cry and had been upset. That was an available timeline. You chose opportunity mindset. I did practice Wim Hof, polar plunge, and I'm having fun, flash my husband. That you created a whole new timeline. That's like a timeline jump. That's a quantum leap. Like I watch you leap from this one to this one, you know? And so I want to congratulate you on that. That's like if we were sitting around the fire, tribe style, you would like receive some kind of flower crown or something, and we'd play a song and have a dance. But hey, avatar upgrade, you did it.
Yeah. And honestly, and that goes back to grounding, because I'm more grounded now than I was back then. And that's honestly, I honestly think that is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Right? Grounding and finding different ways to ground ourselves. We can do it through dance, like you said, through washing dishes, through walking the dog, through walking yourself, with shoes, no shoes, gardening, right?
Root chakra affirmations. They've been, if clairaudience is a strong gift for you, sentences, affirmations can go a long way, even just writing them down over and over.
Yeah.
It makes total sense, because if you think about it, our stress reactions are deeply ingrained from fight or flight, that flight or flight response when we're under stress. Grounding gives you the time to think, am I actually under stress? Or do I have an opportunity here to choose from a place of safety? Like, am I safe? Grounding gives you the chance to recognize, I am safe. I have everything I need. And when you have that split second to recognize that, and the practice of grounding will internalize it. So you will have access to it in times of stress.
Yeah.
It gives you the footing to then look around and say, oh, I get to choose. Because when under stress, when we're actually threatened, we're all instinct. There's no choice. Like, we will survive. we will, and so it makes sense, because you've been cultivating a grounding practice for yourself. So when you got pushed into the pool, it makes sense that a former fight or flight response would be crying, being upset.
Yeah.
Some sort of passed down version of flight. And grounding, you're able to recognize you're okay.
Yeah, that I am safe.
Yeah, you are.
You use that word safe, because I think that was the biggest differentiator before. Before, if I was thrown in that water, or even when he would hose me on purpose or by accident, I would cry because it was cold water and it made me feel unsafe.
Yeah.
Even though I'm very safe, right? Again, that's all of the mind. But in that moment, that's what it was. And it was very, very real. And it came from lifetime of stuff that made me feel eventually traumatized in a way, right? And that's what it is. It made me feel unsafe. And now it's like, from level 3, I go, this is where we saw level 3, level 5, and level 7, all in one, right? Rationalize, okay, am I safe? Yes, I am. It's just cold water. This is what you wanted to do, right? And then start to see an opportunity in there. And it's like, well, you're safe because he didn't want to hurt you, just playing and having fun. This is what you like to do. You like to do childish things. What would a child do? They would act that way. They would have fun. He threw both the kids in the pool previously, and he was so good. He's like, oh, because this pool has like an inflatable ring on top. So when you fill it up, the inflatable ring goes on top and it keeps the water in. So he goes, and they had the holes in it. So we found the holes. Our daughter actually found the holes, and we covered them. And then he goes, so now I'm filling up the pool, and he goes, there's a hole at the bottom of the pool, right? So can you bring me one of those pads? So I'll put it in, maybe, with the water going in, it'll suck it in, and we won't have to fix it. So in the end, he goes, oh, come check, come look at it, right? So I go, I look over, I try to look, and he comes out of nowhere and pushes me in, like head first, right into the pool, and I'm like, and I was like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? I don't want to stay in this water, so I got out and trying to figure out what happened, how it happened, how I fell for it.
Well, and of course that's why it doesn't feel safe, because it wasn't a choice. It wasn't your choice to go in the water. So it wasn't typically a polar plunge. it's a decision you make. And that lack of choice is when we feel like we're not safe and we don't feel grounded.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, but in the end, I felt safe, and I felt like it's like I've been wanting to do a polar plunge for a while, but I didn't gather up the balls for it, so to speak. So here I am. I've been thrown in there. Well, how does it feel? It's not so bad. It's a little wet. It's a little cold. I know. I'm almost done. Don't worry. You're gonna go in the pool. So I got what I wanted, and I'm like, okay, it's not so bad. So how about we put some ice into it next time? Maybe they'll feel better. So yeah, seeing an opportunity in those moments.
There's so many lovely energies wrapped up in it, because also level 4 for yourself, because Wim Hof is your a part of your self-care journey that you began in the winter, was it?
I think it was in the winter where I came across Wim Hof through the Goop Lab show, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I gotta try that out. And I tried the cold showers, but again, it's like shoulder.
I just like stick my head under.
That's good. Just more hot water now. Yeah. I'm from Russia. I know people are like, you're from Russia and you don't like the cold? No, I don't like the cold. I didn't live in Siberia. But yeah, it's really good practice.
Yeah.
And it's really like, if I wake up and I don't have very much time to meditate, I choose Wim Hof, and I always do Wim Hof first and then meditate. So if I don't have time to meditate, at least I got my Wim Hof practice. And it helps me to like it's mindfulness and it's meditative at the same time. And like I was saying before, like, how do you wake up? How do I wake up in the morning? I used to wake up and worrying about everyone else and everything else, and then wondering why I was feeling like crap, because I wasn't thinking about myself. I wasn't focusing on myself. I wasn't even considering myself. No wonder I was walking by in the mirror and be disgusted with myself, because I wasn't thinking about myself in any kind of area except poor me, poor me, poor me, in all different ways, right? But in the end, it always came down to poor me and me losing and me not having things. And then I realized my pattern, and well, how do I then incorporate myself into that? Wake up earlier and take care of yourself. So I wake up at 4:59. I go do my Wim Hof, and then afterwards I usually meditate. But if I'm gonna go work out with my husband, then we go work out, because that still is self-care. And it's bonding time, right? And sometimes it's play fun time, like poking and poking and poking. Like a kid, right? Until the adult becomes like, oh my God, just stop being so annoying. Oh, you finally noticed I'm being annoying? Thank you.
I just love that poking your husband is like one of your love languages.
He's learning that.
I think it's sweet as.
Yeah, he didn't think it was sweet in the beginning, because like, serious, let's work out. It's time to work out and be serious. But it's not fun. I don't want to.
Yeah. I hear that. That's why my workouts are all dance related. Like, I'll like hold a weight and move it around, but like I can't be like, I gotta like count what I'm doing. I can't do it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I started counting differently in my head. Instead of counting to 10, I count to 5, and then I count to 5 again. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? You can change the rhythm and you can have fun. Nobody needs to know what's going on in here. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. It doesn't have to be a sad thing. It can be a fun and uplifting thing where you're working out, and instead of focusing on the misery part of the working out, sometimes it feels.
Because like repetition gets boring, and I mean, depending on who you are, maybe some people love repetition, but when it comes to like counting, like I realized a while ago, if my workout includes counting reps, the workout's not sustainable. But if my workout includes blasting music, then it's a sustainable practice. So I realized that, and like dancing and surrendering to music. So I realized what I could do instead of counting reps is to do something, like whatever it is, like lifting, like what I do now for my legs, like lifting. I think there's a name for it, but you lift like your leg behind you, you're like down on all fours and lift your leg up.
Like a donkey kick almost?
Yes.
It's a butt workout. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked those and I don't count, but I'll do it for like 2-3 minutes of a song so that I can like kind of like surrender to the song, and then before I know it, my ass is burning and I'm like, oh cool. So that's more sustainable. So I just thought I'd offer that as like an option. I'm in the process of gathering insight for live music lovers, because I have so many homies who are bummed about all their shows being canceled. And so I've been like, okay, like just formulating how can I create some kind of practice or inspire some kind of practice for the live music lovers to bring all that energy that we experience to a routine, whether it's connection to spirit routine, like a meditation routine or workout routine. Like we can feel that same frequency. And so that's one of the things that I was playing with in the workout routine, just because you can get lost, like when you're doing something for your body and with your body, and the mind has a chance to take a break, so the spirit has a chance to play. So I just love tying all that in together.
Mm-hmm.
And the live music lover could really fall in love with a similar routine and feel okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get through this.
And honestly, this right here is also another perfect example how a coach can help help you bring out all the tools that you already have at your dispense is the word?
Yeah. Yep. Like, yeah, you're your own dispenser. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we just help to bring out those tools that you already have, and then go try it, see how that works. And if it doesn't, pull out a different tool and a different tool and a different tool. There's so many tools that each and every one of us are carrying within ourselves that we're just not even aware of. And then we go about our day feeling like, I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am. I don't know. All I have in my life are problems and no solutions. But again, how true is that? Right? Because if we look in the past, the same thing, problem. What did you do? You found a solution. Like the hand, right? You're looking at the problem rock, right?
I want to tell you, I have such a cute story about that. If you have time before we wrap up.
Trying to reach it, right? The problem rock, and then the other side is the solution.
So my niece, at one point during quarantine, my brother brought my niece over here, and she's 5 now. She turned 5 in April, and she was holding the rock. She happened to be holding the rock, and she came into the kitchen where my brother, my mom, and I were, and she was holding the rock, and she was like, and she told us it was her friend, like her friend's name. She's like, it's my friend's birthday, but we're not in school. And she was like upset about it, and because she wanted to celebrate her friend's birthday. And I was like, well, look at the rock. What is that? And like she was like, it's a problem. And I was like, and for every problem there's a solution. And I flipped the rock over, and I was like, so what's the solution? And my mom started like going into level 4 fixer solver mode, and I was like, let her come up with the solution. And so my niece is standing there holding the rock that says the solution side up now, and she was like, we could Zoom, and we're like, yes. Like, and my brother was there. He's like, that's very good. And so she came up with a 5-year-old can grasp this concept.
Yeah.
And not need people to fix it for them or solve it for, she didn't need anyone to solve it for her. Her brain was able to transmute a problem into a solution. And it just was so cool. She happened to grab the rock from the table and came into the kitchen being like, I have a problem. Little kids are so intuitive.
You know, right? And that right there was also evidence that no matter how old you are, you're going to have problems. They just get bigger and bigger as we age. But there's always a solution to every problem. And only you have the solution to that problem. Nobody else. Because it's your problem, and nobody else can honestly even truly fully understand what it's like. Because we have our own assumptions, our own interpretations, our own gremlins that are attached to that problem, and our own limiting beliefs are attached to that one problem. So hence, we're the only ones that really have the solution. But sometimes we need help to bring it out.
Right. And for everyone who experiences a lot of level 4 and jumps into that, I want to solve for you. So that moment where my mom was like about to tell Jamie what Jamie figured out on her own, the reason I was like, hold up, is because I know the value of taking yourself through that experience. So let's keep that in mind. I know that level 4 energy, a lot of times it comes from feeling like our value is based in how much we can solve for others. So what instead if our value is more based in how much we can empower others to solve for their own? And
let them be on their own journey.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate the ship for them.
And trusting that they will make the decisions that they need to make. What if that was our value? Just trusting people on their journey and being that calm, cool, collected. Yeah, what was that? What the fuck? Quantum feedback looping.
We are.
It's grounding. It's grounding.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we just cracked the code. Maybe this is the perfect time to wrap up.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it all comes down to grounding. This can also be grounding, right? Holding a little piece of rock.
These help.
Yeah.
Because you're holding earth and you're like, all right, at least I've got a chunk of earth.
Even this rock right here can have a meaning. It doesn't have to be this meaning. It could be a different meaning, right? And holding a piece of earth in my hands at any time can be a reminder. You hold a certain rock, some people hold it in their pocket, and it will be a reminder for you for something. You got to attach the reminder.
Holding on to something in general is like, I use this for grounding. I use this, like, wrap my hands around it, my fingers. I use this for grounding all the time. And even like, sometimes I'll come back from meditations and like I'll have journeyed so far into the cosmos that when I come back to earth, it takes me a minute and I just pick this up and just start like making sounds. And in that moment, like, sound is like the most grounding thing. Like, okay, this is whew. And so it could be anything. Just like, I find like grabbing for something, even putting my hands down on the earth, like just grab hold. Yeah. Grab hold and be like, I am here. I am.
Yeah, exactly.
I am safe. I am secure. I'm connected to everything around me. And if you look around while you're saying it and just notice everything around you, it's easier to believe.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same thing with even with the rings, right? Wearing the rings. Some people like to play with the rings. That could be used as a reminder.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I touch things to ground all the time. Like doing this reminds me to breathe. Every time I feel the like motion of following the track of my necklace and feeling the crystal at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, breathe.
Yeah.
So there's all these symbols, like we can apply meaning to really anything around us, and the more mindfulness we bring to that, like I create symbols, for example, that this helps me ground as well. There's a willow tree in my backyard, and the sky, the earth. I apply symbols that as a human I have emotional attachment to. So grandmother willow, grandmother moon, father sky, mother earth. And sometimes when I'm grounding, I will look at them and feel their, as Ram Dass calls it, loving awareness. So Ram Dass's loving awareness mantra, I am loving awareness, has been a big part of my grounding journey as well. And so what I feel from everything when I'm grounding and I'm looking around me, I feel the loving awareness. Like even my plants, the garden that I'm growing outside, I have this loving awareness for them. They have it for me. And also applying symbols that invoke some sort of emotion to nature, because nature's always there. Like she's always been there. Mother Earth has always been there for us. And that's where I truly felt unconditional love.
Yeah.
Was feeling it from the trees around me and the sky above me and the earth below me. And I think that's another way to ground, is to think in those terms, like Father Sky, I see you. Mother Earth, thank you. Grandmother Willow, I hear you. And communing, like Mother Earth is always available for intimacy. Other humans, we might not know if they're safe for intimacy, but Mother Earth is always available for intimacy.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is the perfect way to end. Go out there and get reconnected to your roots. There you go. Connected to your roots. Perfect.
In the dirt, Baba, this is where you came from. This is where you came from. I'm gonna go blast that song.
I had a feeling.
I know how I'm gonna connect to my roots.
Yeah, I'm gonna go walk in the backyard for a little bit before my next call with no shoes while the kids are getting wet in the cold water and having fun. And I'm probably gonna have my call outside today.
Word, yes.
So
that's a great Monday.
Yeah. And Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Every day of the week.
Sounds like heaven on earth. You are creating it. It's happening.
Instead of sitting there and wishing and praying to have a certain life, taking a pause and realizing that I already have it.
Yes!
I just need to accept it and enjoy it.
Because you're rooted, sister.
That's right. Getting rid of all the shame and guilt for having it, right? Everyone has access to it. You just need to realize that you already have it and enjoy it and live it. And that's it.
Well, thank you for such an amazing Zoom.
Yes.
I'm so happy right now.
Me too. And everyone who's watching is feeling happy too.
I hope you got some bliss vibes from us.
Yeah.
I feel totally blissed out. Like I got high from our conversation.
I know, me too.
Happened.
Sober, walk out high. How's that possible? It's energy, guys.
It's scientifically, we have a quantifiable standard of measurement actually to show you how it's possible.
And that's how it feels to be grounded. When you feel grounded, this is where you feel that the happiness and joy and bliss and equilibrium.
Yeah.
So find a way how you can ground yourself.
Go get after it.
Yes, that's right. Awesome.
All right.
To all of you guys, and thank you. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.